Hey everyone, if you've been keeping up with my latest content, you know I've been laser focused on all these regulatory shifts happening in our space right now. And honestly, it's not just about encouraging growth anymore. We're literally watching these moves accelerate some of the biggest players into absolute powerhouses, both inside and outside the crypto world. I'm talking about giants like Ripple, Hedera, and Stellar. These names are about to get even bigger, and it's all thanks to organizations like the CFTC finally starting to play ball with us. So check this out. We just got some incredible news from CFTC acting chairman Caroline Deepam. She dropped this bombshell post saying that starting right now, the CFTC is rolling out the red carpet for Americans who want to trade efficiently and safely under their regulations. Plus, they're opening up US markets to the entire world. Her exact words, crypto sprint equals wins. I mean, come on. That's the kind of energy we've been waiting for. This whole thing revolves around the FBOT advisory, where CFTC Pam just announced this game-changing advisory to give non-US exchanges the regulatory clarity they've been desperately needing. Listen, this is absolutely massive because I know so many of you are frustrated that there are tons of crypto projects we literally cannot access here in the US. Most exchanges don't carry them, and trying to use foreign exchanges is a nightmare with all the KYC restrictions. We've basically been stuck using DEXs or just missing out entirely on some incredible projects. But this changes everything. Caroline also mentioned that today's FBOT advisory delivers exactly the regulatory clarity needed to legally bring back all that trading activity that got pushed out of the United States because of those crazy regulation by enforcement tactics we've been dealing with for years. All right, folks, by doubling down on the CFTC's classic playbook of genuinely giving US traders awesome choices and real access to those mind-blowingly deep, ultra-liquid global markets packed with every imaginable product and asset class, all those American companies that got totally steamrolled and forced to pack up for overseas just to keep their crypto trading dreams alive, well, guess what? They're getting their golden invitation back home. Starting right this minute, the CFTC is basically throwing their arms wide open saying, hey, Americans, come back and trade like absolute pros, rolling out the welcome mat for everyone wanting to trade efficiently and safely under their rock solid regulations, while also flinging open our market doors for the entire world to come play. It's honestly just another beautiful example of how the CFTC keeps delivering knockout punches for President Donald Trump throughout our epic crypto sprint. Okay, guys, this stuff has me absolutely buzzing with excitement. Obviously, yeah, we all totally know the CFTC has some incredibly deep-rooted connections stretching back to Ripple, and especially our beloved XRP. Caroline literally walked through Ripple headquarters back in 2022. I'm thinking it was probably around December or maybe September of 2022. And here's what's absolutely mind blowing. We were sitting right in the thick of that whole lawsuit circus, which was already screaming loud and clear that this entire legal catastrophe was pure hot garbage. Seriously, though, what kind of twisted logic explains the CFTC just chilling with Brad Garlinghouse inside Ripple's San Francisco headquarters while the SEC is simultaneously declaring total war on them? None of it made any logical sense whatsoever. But you know what? Setting all that aside for a moment, we've also got this fascinating development with Justin reporting that the US CFTC just adopted NASDAQ's surveillance system to seriously amp up their crypto market oversight and get themselves ready for way more authority under some legislation that's coming down the pipeline. This is honestly fantastic news for our entire industry. I've got this strong gut feeling that pretty soon we're going to watch the CFTC and SEC start working hand in hand like never before. I mean, just check out Caroline's profile. There's this whole New Day Onwards vibe starting from July 31st, and boom, there she is posing with Paul Atkins from the SEC. It really wouldn't blow my mind at all to see these two agencies team up in some major way. They're already collaborating behind the scenes on several crypto initiatives. So honestly, this all makes perfect sense to me. It genuinely wouldn't shock me one bit if these two powerhouses really started coordinating on some kind of massive joint crypto strategy. But hey, moving beyond all that regulatory stuff, we've been witnessing some pretty incredible moves happening across the entire US market landscape. Perfect example. We just got this huge announcement from the Faster Payments Council. So apparently the Faster Payments Council is absolutely thrilled to reveal the members of their 2025 to 2026 FPC Board Advisory Group. Now listen, this is genuinely very intriguing stuff. And here's exactly why I'm saying this is so incredibly intriguing. When we dive deep into this particular group, let's take a closer look here. This announcement dropped on August 28th. So the FPC, that's the US Faster Payments Council, basically this membership organization that's completely dedicated to pushing forward safe, super user-friendly faster payments here in America, just dropped the big news today about who's joining their 2025 to 2026 FPC Board Advisory Group. Now, this board advisory group, which got set up by the FPC board of directors themselves, is packed with absolute industry rock stars who bring tons of payments experience to the table and basically help shape all the FPC's biggest priorities and game-changing initiatives. The fresh faces coming in include all these absolutely massive players. I'm talking about some seriously heavyweight American companies here, monster names like American Express and Charles Schwab. I mean, the list just keeps going with so many incredible heavy hitters. We're even seeing credit unions jumping in, plus JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs throwing their hats in the ring. All right, but then when we flip over to check out the returning members list, things get even more interesting. So we've got Corporate One Federal Credit Union back again. Yep, more credit unions getting involved, plus NASDAQ, Payments Jedi, Payloom, Volante, and Juniper. There are just so many massive names represented here. Then you scroll down and spot even more banks, Federal Reserve Financial Services, making their presence known. And then boom, there it is, James Selleck representing Ripple. So here's the quote that really caught my attention. We are absolutely thrilled to welcome these fresh faces to our board advisory group, and we're incredibly grateful for all the returning members who keep showing up for us. Together, this powerhouse team brings such valuable expertise that's going to help steer the FPC as we stay laser focused on practical solutions that really drive widespread adoption of faster payments. Pretty fascinating stuff, right? Now, here's where things get even more interesting because there's some backstory here worth diving into. Apparently, by tapping into all the experience their members bring to the table, this group actually helps the FPC spot emerging trends before they hit, consider exciting new opportunities, and tackle real challenges head on in the faster payments world. Since they first got started back in 2020, this board advisory group has been the driving force behind some really important conversations about things like adoption barriers, launching brand new work groups, and identifying real world use cases that actually matter. Our board advisory group is basically our secret weapon, helping us stay ahead of major shifts in the payments landscape and making sure our work actually aligns with what the industry desperately needs. Their guidance keeps our initiatives grounded, future-focused, and genuinely impactful. Super intriguing stuff. Now remember, the main mission here for the FPC is being this industry-led membership organization with this incredible vision of creating a world-class payment system where Americans can safely and securely pay literally anyone, anywhere, anytime with almost instant funds availability. Does that ring any bells for anyone listening? Sound familiar at all? Because that sounds exactly like the Internet of Value concept that Ripple has been championing for years and years and years. And don't forget, Ripple is sitting right there in this group alongside some of the biggest banks and major companies imaginable. Guys, this connection back to Ripple is absolutely mind-blowing. We've definitely talked about this connection before, but when you actually visit their website and check out some of these other names, the first thing you see is the path to faster payments ubiquity starts with you. The key thing they're doing here is leveraging both public and private partnerships. It's literally the identical mission that even the BIS is pushing. All these major players have been secretly working together to build this revolutionary financial infrastructure. It's about to transform everything in the coming years. But when we examine the powerhouse names connected to the FPC, we're talking about giants like BNY, the Clearinghouse, Trustly, MasterCard, ACI Worldwide, and then Endava. Now, here's what's absolutely fascinating about some of these companies and even some of the other names linked back to this FPC council. When we examine players like Volante and similar organizations, well, just consider all the incredible connections flowing straight back to Ripple, right? Volante is this absolutely massive industry force. Back in 2021, they decided to launch VolPay, and VolPay was specifically designed for ISO 2002 integration, but also for faster payments infrastructure. Now, Volante already maintains deep relationships with Swift, but beyond just the connection back to Swift, we absolutely know that Ripple is also plugged in already in the cloud. This happens through their API connectivity framework. And absolutely, yes, they can tap into XRP. We've heard from Volante on multiple different occasions confirming to us that absolutely, yes, XRP can be utilized. Now, here's the absolutely best part about all this. We're talking about the FX market and just general payment flows for cross-border transactions. But then when we circle back to this list and examine some of these incredible names like ACI Worldwide as a perfect example. Now, we already know ACI and Swift have been collaborating extensively. This comes straight from their industry associations page. This is pulled directly from ACI Worldwide's official website. Now, they definitely discuss Swift partnerships there. But what's absolutely mind-blowing about this whole situation is we also discovered that ACI fully supports real-time payment schemes all around the globe, meaning literally any bank can leverage real-time payment infrastructure to support Swift GPI, DLT solutions, and get this, Ripple, Wire, plus immediate payment systems. Why would they just randomly spotlight Ripple like that? Why specifically mention Ripple out of all the massive industry players they could have highlighted instead? That's obviously because Ripple is definitely a legitimate partner of ACI's. I know when we navigate over to their official partnership page, you honestly can't really spot Ripple listed there. Ripple isn't currently labeled anywhere on their website, but we absolutely know going way back historically that they were definitely mentioned on their official site. Let me check if they're still featured anywhere. They probably aren't on their website anymore. So they're completely gone from their website now, but we definitely know they used to be prominently featured. And here's exactly why I'm saying that with complete confidence. If we travel all the way back to 2020, here we discover Ripple partner ACI Worldwide teams up with MasterCard to create innovative payment solutions globally. Now, this is the only documented connection we currently know about. I genuinely believe that back during 2020 and 2021, they were featured on their website. We used to easily find it on their official site. Today, it's completely vanished. So did this partnership quietly get phased out? Is there some DA situation happening? We honestly don't know. We honestly can't say for absolute certain, but there are tons of major names connected back to ACI. And you can literally go through all these extensive lists here if you really feel like diving deep. It's honestly a pretty substantial roster of partnerships discovered on their site. Major credit unions are featured. MasterCard is prominently listed as well. And again, you can absolutely scroll through this entire directory if you really wanted to explore further. Even Visa's directly tied back to them, along with so many other heavyweight names. But we definitely know they were once an official partner of ACI's. I'm bringing this up purely because of all the fascinating connections back to every single player tied to the FPC. Like, for example, even MasterCard, which we absolutely know Ripple has been actively working with since going all the way back to 2023. Ripple was officially named a CBDC partner for MasterCard's ambitious CBDC initiative. Now, again, today, is this partnership still actively ongoing? Are there still major developments happening around this collaboration? 100%. We've been closely following exactly what MasterCard has been doing strategically. They've been connecting with some of the biggest industry players back in fall of 2024. So roughly a year ago, they did officially partner up with, or at least successfully added Stellar to their comprehensive platform. So again, MasterCard has been making some pretty substantial strategic moves recently. Now, on top of all this, BNY Mellon. So again, if we circle back to that original list, BNY was definitely one of the major players. They were listed under real-time recurring payments. We already know that BNY, if you visit their official X account, the very first post on their X feed is the major announcement with RLUSD. We know Ripple has been actively working with BNY now through RLUSD. Again, this is honestly a huge, massive connection. And this was absolutely one of the biggest announcements we witnessed this year so far, RLUSD and even Ripple's involvement. But building on top of all this exciting stuff, we also navigate over here. So we discover what could US domestic payments providers actually do to support G20 2027 and 2030 targets. Now, this entire document is from January 14th of this year. So we see accelerate ISO 2022 adoption. And this is basically just tapping into ISO 2022 much earlier, advancing it rapidly, accelerating the entire timeline. It's pretty straightforward when you think about it. Then we also discover collaborate on instant payment systems. This involves interlinking domestic real-time payment infrastructure with international ones. This is absolutely central to the G20's ambitious vision of faster 24/7 cross-border payments. By the way, that identical goal of the G20 is exactly the same goal that the BIS's CPMI group is pursuing, which, by the way, Ripple is definitely a part of. It's literally the exact same goal they're all working towards, making sure they're advancing the G20's priorities around faster payment systems. And then there's also improve interoperability through standardized APIs. We already know that RippleNet itself, or Ripple Payments, is fundamentally an API-based platform which could easily be tapped into. By the way, they want to work with organizations like the Clearinghouse and the Federal Reserve. By the way, this entire strategy comes from the US Faster Payments Council. The Clearinghouse is already deeply integrated with the Faster Payments Council. We already know that under their education and awareness initiatives. So there you have yet another massive connection straight back to the FPC, which could definitely be exposed to Ripple simply because of Ripple sitting on that FPC board. We've already discussed this extensively, but also down at the bottom, we discover some additional fascinating things, right? Reduce costs and enhance efficiency, focus on financial inclusion, enhance compliance and risk management. And then at the very bottom, we see promote inter-industry collaboration. This is genuinely interesting because when we examine this closely, we find partnered with fintechs and startups innovating in cross-vendor payments such as RippleNet and Stellar. Again, this entire document is from January of this year, where Ripple is being specifically mentioned by the US Faster Payments Council. We already know these two organizations have been actively collaborating together on tons of different initiatives back in February of 2024. So over a year ago now, Ripple and the US Faster Payments Council officially teamed up in 2023 for a comprehensive global survey unveiling key insights into blockchain payment adoption. Now, they just cover a few important facts here, but when we go and examine the breakdown of just the front page of this report, and boom, we've got Ripple and the US Faster Payments Council, blockchain and crypto and payments, completely revolutionizing how money actually flows. We're now watching influential congressional leaders from both political parties actively pushing for these game-changing legislative solutions. The entire conversation surrounding crypto has become way more nuanced and intelligent than it was just 2 short years ago. The groundbreaking special report from the US Faster Payments Council and Ripple exploring the revolutionary opportunities of crypto-powered payments and what industry leaders are predicting comes next. Among the most exciting survey highlights, an absolutely staggering majority of providers view crypto in general solutions as totally essential for injecting real speed into these painfully slow payment markets. Dramatically lower cost for both domestic and international payments represents crypto's biggest advantage, according to the findings. Very few enterprises are currently embracing blockchain-based payments, but it's literally just a matter of time before much more widespread adoption explodes across the landscape. The speed of this broader market acceptance depends on one absolutely crucial factor: significantly improved regulatory clarity, which, by the way, that's beginning to improve dramatically right now. Crypto's environmental impact is definitely weighing heavily on people's minds. How significantly it actually affects real-world usage remains to be seen moving forward, but honestly, this transformation is already happening everywhere around us. These developments are starting to accelerate at breakneck speed, but we already know that Ripple is actively collaborating with the US Faster Payments Council. Guys, just think about the absolutely massive names connected to this company, to this entire organization. If you examine the working groups connected to the US Faster Payments Council, just look at these incredible names. I know we just covered them extensively, but seriously, just think about the weight these names carry. And they have some absolutely significant industry powerhouses tied to this organization as well. For example, just examining their board of directors alone. So you've got MasterCard represented here. You have several major companies like Walmart and Netflix, but you also have absolutely massive banks and banking organizations involved. And again, this isn't some small time association that's just going to be a minor player that might possibly make some decent headlines someday. Maybe they'll do something noteworthy at some point eventually. No way. This is already a absolutely massive organization featuring some of the largest banks anywhere, some of the biggest credit unions imaginable, and they just keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Just take a quick peek at some of the banking institutions connected back to some of these organizations, and you'll immediately see what's unfolding in real time, the old financial world collaborating with the new. Look, we totally know Ripple represents the future here. We know that JP Morgan and all these massive traditional banks represent the past. And if you guys somehow missed it, yeah, scrolling down at the bottom, you definitely spotted JP Morgan Chase right there. You also caught Citi listed on there too. You also noticed Goldman Sachs featured prominently. There are some absolutely huge banking institutions connected to this thing. And we're literally watching that open collaboration, that genuine public-private partnership unfold right before our eyes in real time. But most folks aren't actually digging into the stuff. They're just staring at the price chart obsessively. They don't really care about all these fundamental developments happening. They don't care about the incredibly boring side of this market evolution. But the boring side of this market will absolutely make you serious money long-term. Take this example. Tons of XRP believers have been strategically holding and even aggressively buying XRP anywhere from 10 to 30 cents. Some lucky people managed to get in way below 10 cents even. But the key thing is that most of us view XRP as this absolutely essential foundation for this revolutionary new financial system. And whether or not we witness that transformation happen in the next month or 3 months or 12 months ahead, it honestly doesn't matter. We know that this is steadily becoming our reality. We know that a completely new financial system is definitely coming. How do we actually know this? Because we've been explicitly told by literally every single one of these official documents that we've been reading from the BIS, from the IMF, you absolutely name it. And absolutely, yes, Ripple and XRP get mentioned quite frequently throughout tons of those important documents. But with all that being said, I genuinely hope that you guys really enjoy this entire video. If you guys absolutely did, feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn those notifications on because there's tons more free content coming your way constantly. And with all that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching today. Peace out, everyone.